Welcome to the Marshall Pruitt Podcast and our Inside the Sports Car Paddock show. This week, our 22nd episode is going to be a very unique one. It will be the first so far without Supreme race car engineer Jeff Brown leading off. Why? Well, this is our very first Goodwood special, coming off of the incredible, and I'm hoping that you spent a lot of time over the, not only over the weekend, but also today here, Monday, recording this late Monday evening. Hoping you spent plenty of time watching the Goodwood Festival of Speed, all the amazing clips of just the world's greatest race cars blasting up the hill. And so while there, my dear friend and co-pilot on the Week in Sports Cars podcast, Graham Goodwin, managed to capture 10 interviews. So this is the very first. I'm hoping it will be the first of many Inside the Sports Car Paddock Goodwood Festival of Speed specials. And so with this lineup, it wanders all over the place, which is exactly what this show is meant to be every week. So we're going to kick off here with Guy Smith and Steven Kane, two Bentley boys, on talking about two different generations of Bentley racers, on the 2003 Le Mans winner that went up the hill with Guy behind the wheel, and also their effort for the upcoming Bentley 100th anniversary at the Spa 24 Hours. Then we move to BMW's Alexander Sims. He's been racing in Formula E primarily this year, speaks about his wish to continue as part of BMW's endurance racing lineup in GT competition. Then we move on to Oliver Bryant, talking about racing his family-owned Roush Mustang Trans-Am machine. After Oliver, we have Germany's Stefan Mucke, part of the Ford GT program that has now come to a conclusion in Europe, talking about working the wrenches, being a mechanic on his father's amazing old-school Zakspped Capri, and also some of his prospects after the Ford GT program is shut down. As we get to the midway point, we speak with Audi legend, touring car legend, prototype legend, Le Mans legend, Frank Biela, on running up the hill in an ex-Trans-Am Audi 90 Quattro, one of the amazing vehicles of my youth here in America. Then we move on to our man Mike Conway, good old Con Weezy, talking about Le Mans Toyota, that near win, his starring role in Le Mans this past June. Also talking about IMSA in the WEC season to come. Also talking a little bit about Toyota's Hypercar mule as well. Then we move on to former Toyota man Anthony Davison on the upcoming WEC campaign and driving the 2009 Braun Formula One car at Goodwood. As we start to wind down, we have Mr. Le Mans, Tom Christensen, Audi's Tom Christensen, just being Tom Christensen. Fun conversation he had with Graham. Then we get to our man Chris Reinke from Audi as well, head of their customer support effort on the brand new GT2 Audi R8 LMS GT2 and its place in the sport. Then we close with yet another legend, Belgium's Eric van der Poel, who went up the Goodwood Hill in an ex-DTM BMW E30 M3. And also he speaks about his loathing of the modern-day driver ranking system. So, as I said, we wander all over the place each week with Inside the Sports Car Paddock. This episode focusing solely on Goodwood. I hope you enjoy it because it has lots of legends, also some of today's finest drivers as well. And finally, and as always, I want to say not only thank you to Graham Goodwin for helping to pack this show with great interviews, but also to Cooper Tires for making the Marshall Pruitt Podcast possible, and our new partners this year, old friends of mine at the Justice Brothers, whose automotive, chemicals, and just general line of amazing products have indeed been a part of my life since I was a teen in the 1980s. All right, let's get going with 10 interviews. They're not super long, should be easy to digest, starting with the Bentley boys, Guy Smith and Steven Kane.
It's 100 years of Bentley being celebrated this year. We've already seen some fantastic liveries unveiled for the Spa 24 Hours. We've got a magnificent selection of Bentleys around the Goodwood premises, but three in particular here, all in a row, three generations of Bentley race car, and happily, well, can we say 1.5 generations of Bentley factory driver, with Steven Kane and Guy Smith. Guy, you're here to drive the fantastic Le Mans car.
Yeah, no, it's great, Graham, to get back here at Goodwood. Anytime I get back behind the wheel of that car, it's such a great buzz. And when we come to somewhere like Goodwood, the fans really enjoy seeing the car and hearing the car. And it still looks great. It still looks, it's like a modern classic now.
It is. Tell us a bit about the car we've got here. Is this the winning car?
Yeah, it's the winning car. So it's absolutely pretty much as it finished the race. It had a few more flies and bits of rubber on it, but I think it attended a motor show and somebody decided they were going to give it a clean. So it's pretty original, but it's great that we get to use it. It's nice that it's not just stuck in a museum and kind of like mothballed. It's we get it out when we can and run it hard, which is great. And I think that's the best way for it.
It still does look remarkably fresh, and we're here 16 years on from that win. But in the cockpit, different. Is it moved on from there?
Well, I think things obviously do move on. Technology moves on. I mean, it hasn't got traction control and all the things that a modern car would have, but actually it doesn't really need it. It's surprising because when you get behind the wheel of it, it still feels like a really engaging, fantastic car. And you can just tell when you get behind the wheel of it. Of course, things move on and what have you, but it's still a great car. And every time I get back behind the wheel of it, it brings back a lot of great memories.
Well, that was going to be the next question. Those memories of 2003 and a dominant year for Bentley, helping to launch the Continental. That was the idea behind the 3-year programme. Maybe you, with a lot of other people, thinking would have been nice to carry on with that programme just a bit longer.
Yeah, it would have been nice. I mean, I completely understand the business decision because obviously it made sense. The idea was about selling road cars, but it's a shame because we had a car that was competitive and certainly would have won a lot more races, I'm sure, if it carried on. But that was the decision, and probably no. If you get a sort of a 1-2 at Le Mans, there's probably you can't really do much better than that anyway. So it probably wasn't a bad idea to stop, but it would have been nice to see it race more.
You have to wait a while for the next episode in Bentley motorsport history, and Stephen Kane, you were part of that episode. We're now into Gen 2 of the Continental. Ironically, as a road car, the car that was promoted for sale by the Le Mans programme. It's moved on a great deal. This is a fantastic, imposing looking beast. We've got 4 of them coming to Spa, but you're coming in hot. We're coming in on the back of success finally.
Yeah, it's obviously Spa is the biggest race of the year for us in Bentley, and to have our first win at Paul Ricard with the new second generation Bentley GT3 is fantastic, and it gives the team a boost. Really looking forward to that race. 100 years of Bentley, coming back there, me especially with driving the green car. It's the new livery. It's exciting.
You've got some new team members coming with you, first time. 4 cars is the factory attack for that. No doubt whatsoever, the guys are going for a win. Tell me a little bit about how that's been drawn together. The team have been smart. They've given some of these guys some seat time.
Yeah, they've kept our car at 107 together all year to keep a consistent championship fight, and they've used the other car with rotating drivers to try and give everyone some time in the car. But everyone's took well to the car. They've all been fast so far. We had a test just yesterday or the day before, and all the drivers got through the 2 cars and they were all fast and they were all happy with it. So yeah, it seems to be going well. The team seem to have their structure. I've seen some stuff written down in paper and what way they're going to run the team for the weekend. So everything seems to be in line, and now the car is competitive, it's reliable, and I think it should be pretty straightforward in how they're going to run it over the race weekend.
This guy always starts up when I start talking to people. Just been standing with a couple of fans looking at the car. The first thing they say, look where the engine is. I mean, this is a remarkable piece of engineering. Very modern GT3, low, far back. What's the driving experience like with this car? She looks a big car. She is a big car, but you sort of get the impression it doesn't drive like that.
No, our car really, the base weight is 1280 kilos, and it's very light. The car has got everything technically is so advanced. Bentley have done a fantastic job with M Sport, and you can see with the weight distribution, the engine's really low. It can't go any lower, and it's as far back as it possibly can. It's a 50-50 weight distribution for tire wear. Fantastic aero, and it's really at the top of the tree in terms of technically what you can do with the rules. But GT3 generally is going that way. It's so competitive, it's so ultra competitive, all the manufacturers involved. And Bentley have just took it to the next level, and you can see that with the speed that we have, and generally tyre wear and even fuel efficiency over a longer race.
73 cars, Guy, are going to be at Spa this year. You going to be there for the race?
Yeah, I'll be there cheering them on. I think it's going to be exciting. I think Bentley coming into the race with some momentum. I think the car now is ready. It's ready to win. They've got the speed, got the reliability. It's actually going to be Brian Gush's final race as head of motorsport, so I think it'd be a fitting tribute to him. It's definitely the one that's left out there for him to win. So I think there'd be no better send off to win Spa for him. I feel confident these guys can do it. As I said, it's been a journey to get there, but it's super competitive in GT3. But they really would be the icing on the cake for the program to do that.
As we said, 73 cars. That sounds like an awful lot. For the guy with, literally a guy with wise head on his shoulders, what's your advice to Stephen and the boys out there?
Well, I think it's the same as any endurance race. You've got to be in it to win it for a start, and you've got to be there. Obviously, it's just about trying to keep the leaders in keep at the front. I think if you can run at the front, you've just got to stay out of trouble, and you're going to be somewhere in the mix at the end. Of course, 24-hour races, it throws up all kinds of different scenarios, and it's always better to win from the front than win from the back. So just get up the front, qualify as well as you can, and just try and keep your head down and stay out of trouble. Simple as that. Easy.
Let's see if it is that easy. For now, Stephen and Guy, enjoy the day with these fantastic Bentleys and with this amazing crowd at the Goodwood Festival of Speed.
Great, thank you very much.
Another face in the crowd with Exchange Wave and grabbed remorselessly for a 5-minute podcast, the Marshall Pruitt podcast. Alexander Sims here, complete with BMW colours and standing in front of some fantastic BMW race cars. What are you here to do this weekend?
Obviously to present my face to the crowd. That's obviously the big draw for most people here, and to drive a DTM car is the main thing. Yes, tomorrow on Sunday
in front of a very, very big crowd. Let's talk about your adventures at the racetrack right now. It's a completely different game now for you, but rather oddly, from the very early days I was aware of you, the EV route was always something you were passionate about.
Yes, I've been interested in EVs and for probably close to 10 years now, I guess, in terms of the interest, and then I've been driving one for 6 or 7 years now in my day-to-day life at home. So I've been trying to be involved in Formula E since its start, and now pretty awesome to be in a position with BMW as one of their 2 drivers. So nice.
Tell us a bit about those events. It's a coming force, lots of factory money and interest coming. That tends to bring with it an awful lot of business-to-business activity at the tracks, and we've seen that the Formula E events are growing in popularity.
Yes, it's a fascinating space, I would say. It's evolving pretty quickly in terms of the interest from outside, interest from manufacturers. I think it's situated as one of probably the top single-seater, one of the top motorsport championships in the world nowadays. It's really just actually very interesting from my point of view. It's going through the development for Season 5 and now doing a little bit of the work for Season 6. How closely the road car side of BMW works in the Formula E project. I think it's probably a while since motorsport has had so much relevance to road cars of now and the future. I think we've had lots of the same people who designed the powertrains in the i3 and the i8 working on the Formula E project. They take that learning back into the road cars, into the electric cars of the future. It's a very, very interesting place to be, and to be a part of that as a driver of that development process is really, really interesting. Lots of cool discussions with the engineers, because having done a couple of GT development programs with the M8, with the M6, to be honest, by the time you get the car, it's pretty much finished, and you're just fine-tuning the cooling aspects and the engine cooling, brake cooling, maybe a bit of traction control, ABS, but the fundamentals of the car are done. Whereas with Formula E, the software that we're introducing with the electric motor is it's changing the car a lot, so it's really cool.
it is a period of time where drivers have had to adapt to massive new technology, whether or not that's been in LMP1, whether or not that's to do with turbo drivetrains in GT racing and now into Formula E. Gives us a kind of link, slightly shoehorned in there, about the GT programme. Sadly, we've seen the end of that, for the moment at least, in the WEC. Continues at IMSA. Are we going to see you in a GT car again?
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I did Sebring this year in WEC, and one round of Italian GT, that was it. I was going to do the Nürburgring before there was a date change in Formula E that made it clash, unfortunately. But no, I think the intention is there to still do endurance racing. I enjoy it massively. And it's a completely different world to Formula E, but nevertheless, really enjoyable.
But time behind the wheel of any race car has got to be helpful.
It's very, very helpful, and it's what I live for professionally. And with Formula E single day events, there's not actually a huge amount of driving. Lots of simulator work and media, and then a very short condensed race day. So to get back behind the wheel in endurance races for 1, 2, 3 hour stints and then get back in again and again, it's really rewarding, and look forward to doing more.
Enjoy tomorrow, enjoy Sunday. If you can get to the car through the crowds. For now, Alexander Sims, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and amongst the features up the hill this year, Tin-Top Titans, and I'm standing in front of the number 65, the Marlboro sponsored car, the 1995 Ford Mustang GTS1. There cannot be, on the 4th of July, a more American car. There's very British events, and of course, with a very American car on Independence Day, who would you choose to take the car up the hill but Oliver Bryant? Oliver, you're not American.
No, but I think I'd like to be after driving this.
Right, you've just given me a kind of rather vivid description of what this car was like up on the hill. This is your first time here. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I've been to the event before, and I've been up the hill as a passenger before, but never done it as a competitor. So it's fantastic to have a go up there. I'd like to have done it in something safe and front wheel drive probably to start with, but straight away up in this is 750 ponies, Roush Ford Mustang engine, awesome thing to drive. 5.9 litre, car weighs about 1,100 kilos, so it's quite a beast. The brakes, we put some sort of sprint pads in it, so it actually stops quite well. But really, for me, that was just an exploratory run to try and get the thing off the line and see how it goes. But
hang on a minute, 750 horsepower, 1,100 kilos. You can enter this in hypercar.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, probably in the wrong class. But no, it's fantastic. So really, really looking forward to giving it some squirt up the hill. Tomorrow we get a couple of runs. We get a couple of runs each day, really. So if I can keep chipping away at the times and hopefully get into the shootout. So how many cars are running for a time this year? Well, I don't think we know at this stage. In that session there was certainly sort of 30 cars that were being timed, but I think it whittles down to 20 or 10 maybe even for Sunday. So yeah, I mean, there's a few electric cars there, and this is the opposite of that. Very opposite. So this makes a much better noise, and you can make it home on one tank. But other than that, tell us a little about the history of the car. It's Trans-Am. Yeah, it's a mid-90s Trans-Am. I think the chassis actually originally built in 92, but as you know, they kind of kept changing the bodies and kept them going forever. So you could still race this in SCCA Trans-Am today. Probably need some different tyres and a different engine restrictor, but you could still run the thing. So yeah, it's an awesome car, and it's this livery is a 1995 livery, I think, from Daytona, or 96. But really, really cool livery. Awesome to have it in these colours at this event because it looks fantastic. And is this a car that joins the Bryant fleet, or is this just one that you're out to play with this weekend? We've actually owned it since sort of 2008, and we used to race it in the States. And I last drove it at Sebring in 2012, and then we shipped the car back over because there's a few things you can do with it now in Europe. And we've just restored it and gone right through it. And the first outing was at Dijon a few weeks ago, and we'd like to get it out. We're going to do the Endurance Racing Legends race down at Monza with it. So that'll be fantastic, up against 550 Manolos and DBR9s and things, to a different approach of doing the same lap time, hopefully. Somewhat different than a DBR9, absolutely. You've got a massive smile on your face. It is an extraordinary thing, and we heard the thing being turned over this morning from Belgium, in fact, where you actually fired the thing up. It's loud. Yeah, no, it is awesome. It's one thing they do right in the States. They all make the right noise. Good stuff. Good luck with it. We'll possibly come back and shake you by the hand once you've given Romain Dumas a good drubbing with that amazing VW IDR. What kind of time are you aiming for up the hill? Well, as I've never done it, I don't really know, but I'd like to think it would get to similar sort of times that a GT3 car would. Obviously, it hasn't got the brakes or the aero, but it's certainly got the power. So, whatever time that ends up being, I'd like to get in the 40s, but I've got no idea whether that's realistic or not at this stage. I did a 57 then, but that was very much exploratory. I was probably a gear lower everywhere than I should have been, and let's see. And the key thing is obviously not to go off in it, because of course you're not going to get another chance if you do that. So,
absolutely right. I'm going to leave you now so you can go off and make sure that your health insurance is actually bang up to date, and we'll go from there. For now, Ollie, thanks a million.
Thank you. Cheers.
More and more and more iconic cars in the Goodwood Festival of Speed paddock, and we're quite often used to hearing over radio push Stefan Mucke, but not quite what I saw this morning, which is Stefan Mucke pushing his father's Zakspped Capri. An amazing car, Stefan. Tell us a little about this magnificent beast.
Yeah, it's an awesome car. I had the pleasure to drive it last year up the hill. It's a great car. It's built in 1980. Raced by Klaus Ludwig, won the championship in 81, the German DTM at that time. And it's just an amazing Group 5 car. It has an aluminium tube frame chassis. The weight is only 850 kilos, and then you have 600 horsepower out of 4 cylinders. And this is just amazing to drive. Yeah.
So the engine in this, I seem to recall, very small turbo engine.
Yes, they run with 1.4 and 1.7. This is now the 1.7. And we run around 550 horsepower. You can run it with more boost pressure, a little bit higher, but reliable, it's with 550.
Someone revs up something over there. Sounds like a bike. You're used to turbo Fords. Tell us about the difference in the tech between this car, which you have raced, and of course the Ford GT, which you've been racing up to Le Mans.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely different. You can't compare both cars, but it's great to have both cars here, actually. Later on, I will drive our current Ford GT from this year Le Mans up the hill, and there can't be more difference. As you said, it's both turbocharged engines, but the development has gone so far ahead. This one has a big lag, so you ask for power and there's nothing, and then it's like a cannonball you sit on, and the other one is much more smoother. And but okay, also the weight difference. I mean, in these days they had 850 kilos with aluminium tube frame chassis. You don't want to have a crash with it, but it's fast and it feels fast.
Let's talk a little bit about the Ford GT, the 66 car, still in its commemorative livery. It looks great in those colours. It's sitting just behind us. Tell us a few reflections on that programme for you. You were there from the very start. The success for you guys came a little later, perhaps, but you had a smile on your face all year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I joined that program, I had a big smile on my face because it's just a unique car. And as we have a little Ford historic race car collection, that suited perfectly. And it was a great time the last 4 years. It was awesome to drive. And it's still good to be here, probably last time up the hill.
There is an inevitable question, which is what next? We know the end of the factory program has come in the WEC. It's the end coming in the United States. We wait for what we believe will be an announcement there of a new program in the US with something different than a GTLM. What's next for Stefan Mucke?
Yeah, and currently working on something for the future, and it's too early to say anything, but of course you look in every direction, and I'm sure something will come up for next year.
I'm going to push slightly harder. You've had links with more than one factory team in the WEC years and success with more than one factory team. Where do we think we might have the next opening for you? GT? Prototypes? Where?
In the past I've driven prototypes, so this is something I always loved and I always like, and of course you look into that as well. Yeah, it would be great to go back in a prototype, but I also love the GT cars. So for me, it makes not really a difference. I'm working in every direction, and I'm sure something will come up.
Stefan, the very best of luck. We want to see you back.
Thank you.
Well, we've had one Audi legend, Tom Christensen. We've got another, Frank Biela. Frank, it's great to see you. Saw you from afar at the Nürburgring in the 24 hours. That was great news for Audi. Just tell us a little bit about what you're here at the Festival of Speed to drive.
I'm actually here to drive the Trans-Am. I mean, a beast 30 years old. But it's really good fun, and but the special thing is it's always nice to come here to Goodwood, you know. I mean, no matter what car I'm in, I love to come here. It's a fantastic event, and especially the last few times I have been here, Weather was always very good, so
it's always like that in the UK.
We are having a lot of fun, and I guess the fans have a lot of fun as well.
And there's a lot of them here. I mean, it's going to be something over 100,000 people tomorrow again the same on Sunday. This is an astonishing event.
Yes, absolutely. You have the impression it's getting bigger and bigger every year, which is very, very nice to see, because times are changing, a lot of things are going on in the world, and somehow this place keeps us together, We do have the old historical cars, maybe even, 80 years old or whatever, and we see a lot of new things, or maybe even some things which will come in the future. So it's fantastic to have this event. We are just happy to be here, and I hope it will continue for a long, long time.
Tell us a bit about that Trans-Am car. The word iconic is often used, but it's one of those cars that you look at and it just sends you weak at the knees.
Yeah, they just look fantastic. They are really wide and low, and they look wild, and big wheels, and like you expect an typical old touring car. And we do have the Trans-Am car, which was in the US in '88, and then a year later they continued with the GTO car, which was more powerful. Let's say the main difference somehow, it was different rules. The Trans-Am has around 550 brake horsepower, 2-liter engine or 2.1 liter, turbocharged of course. So it's really good fun, and it's a Quattro of course, So it's good fun to drive this car, and I'm really enjoying it.
Long career, still with Audi, and that's great to see. When people stop you and say, "You're Frank Biela," what do they ask you?
A lot of people, honestly, especially being here, they talk to me about BDCC in '96 and '97, and it has been a fantastic time. I always used to say, every single thing I did with Audi at its time was very important, but if I have, let's say, from the touring car career, if I have to pick a certain point, it's definitely '96 when I won the British Touring Car Championship. And a lot of people remember those days. So do I. It was fantastic. And then, of course, Le Mans as well. Yeah, a lot of people know know about the 5 Le Mans wins and what we did over there with the prototypes was fantastic. But again, being here, especially in the UK, a lot of people remember the good old BTCC.
It's amazing, isn't it? You think back at how long ago that was, and still success coming. We've had a launch of a brand new Audi race car today. It seems that Audi could do very little but come up with success.
Yeah, whatever we did, pretty soon we were successful, and I hope they can continue in the future as well. Of course, time is changing, and then we are jumping from one category, let's say, to the other one, but now in GT3, for example, we are quite for a while, I think even 10 years now, around 10 years. And let's see what this GT2 thing brings. I just had a look a few minutes ago. It looks really nice. I hadn't seen it before, so...
you and me both, and I unveiled it.
So it looks pretty nice, and let's see what they can do. But in general, I think, my God, time is changing, things are developing. And so far, I think we always picked the right way, and we were successful. And we tried to do something nice for the Audi fans, for the motorsport fans.
Keep coming back. It's always great to see you. Frank Biela, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
You bumped into all sorts at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and one of the very first I bumped into on Friday morning, Mike Conway. Mike smiling after what has to be said was a grueling, astonishing Le Mans 24 Hours. Tell us where you are at the moment after that amazing end of the race.
Yeah, it's kind of finally sinks in, I think, when you come to events like this, when everyone's here and, you start talking about racing again. The last couple of weeks, been busy. I was at Watkins Glen last weekend, but yeah, finally sinking in really kind of what's happened. But, tough one to get over. I think it would take a while to get over that one, but I feel all right. I'm kind of ready for the next season, even though it's been a very short period. The next season's just around the corner, so got to kind of just think about that now and forget about Le Mans a bit. But yeah, I'm still happy with the performance that we did at Le Mans as a team. Everyone on car 7 was, faultless. Just a shame that what happened right at the end when I don't know, when you least expect it, I guess.
Seems to be a bit of a Tota trait, it's got to be said, that the unexpected strikes.
I know, yeah, we saw it in 2016 with the sister car when theirs was like 5 minutes to go, and that was just unbelievable. So yeah, I mean, just a shame. You know, we had the puncher that we had enough time to fix it and get back out in the lead, but it just happened to be that the sensors were the wrong way round, and oh, what a mess! You know, you can't write these things. But
I'll ask one question about it, and then we'll put that one in history where it belongs, which is, what was the reaction of the team to you three after that race?
They were just so upset for us, you know. They knew that we had the race covered, and, you know, I think even Car 8 thought they were happy-ish with kind of finishing second, and yeah, they were just gutted. Everyone was obviously very emotional, crying, and, you know, I thought I was going to hold it together until I saw Kaz in up by the podium, and he was like crying, and then he got me going. So
Bless your heart.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Watkins Glen. Caddies weren't really there that weekend.
No, I mean, I thought we'd be all right. We were kind of hanging in there. As the race was kind of going on, we were getting closer and closer to the pace of the Acuras and Mazdas, but really they were just dominant. So the Mazdas especially, just very, very quick. So yeah, didn't have much for them, and our strategy wasn't the best. We went a lap down because we pitted when we shouldn't have really, and yeah, that kind of sealed our fate. And then we were just fighting for sixth on our own. You know, there was a car a lap ahead of us, and the other car behind us was 2 laps behind us, so just in our own little world at the end there. But it was good to be back in the Cadillac anyway. It's been since the Raw when I was in there, so yeah, it's been a little while.
Wow, yeah, of course, messing with visa
yeah,
issue?
The visa, yeah, that just came together too late, so my passport was in the embassy, so I could travel. That was the problem there. So yeah, unfortunate, but yeah, good to be back in the car, and it's good to just go and race again, kind of forget about Le Mans, you know, which is not a bad thing to do.
It never stops. You're back contesting with Tota next week at Paul Ricard.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Back into the car and just focus on the next season now. So yeah, a few little updates I think that we're going to try and you know, get ready for the 1920 season. So looking forward to it. It's coming around quick, but I'm looking forward to, you know, in a couple of weeks I've got like a week off, which will be nice. Just a bit of a reset, I suppose.
I hear you. I very much hear you.
Yeah.
And beyond that, we now know Hypercar's coming. There's now been a formal announcement. Are you yet? Have you seen the new car? Are you involved in that test program?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited and I'm happy that other manufacturers are coming in. You know, it's good to have Aston there. And on the first year as well, we weren't sure who was going to join us in that first year. So, yeah, no, it's great that Toyota's committed and they're pushing forward. So, yeah, it looks cool. I mean, it's going to be different. Bit slower than what we're driving now. So, yeah, it's going to be get used to a heavier car and a different way of producing the lap times, more engine power, and the hybrids restricted at certain speeds and stuff like that. So, all new things to get used to, but anytime you're developing a new car is always fun. So, but yeah, I guess this will be the last year of the mega quick cars, and then over time, hopefully they'll get them quicker and quicker. But yeah, no, I'm still enjoying the cars we got now, and but yeah, the car does look good from design stage. I mean, it looks pretty cool. I mean, it's a prototype still. Yeah, we'll just have a different look. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it and looking forward to what our competition will bring as well.
Final question is a Goodwood Festival of Speed. You're just walking out the Drivers' Club. What are you off to drive today?
I've got the GT4 Supra concept. Okay. So,
and that production car, that car for the GT4 car announced officially yesterday.
Yes.
Will be available for customers. Tell us a little bit about that car.
Yeah, so it's really kind of a concept at the moment, and what's here today anyway. But they'll be going into production with the GT4 car. So yeah, it's going to be a race-ready product. A good entry point, I think, for anyone that wants to go racing or track day stuff. And yeah, and you can see it here. It looks cool. I think everyone likes the look of it. So
and fun.
I'll let you know. I haven't driven it yet, so. It should be good. I mean, it's got like brand new ice cold slicks on it. So I think the first 2 corners are going to be pretty interesting. So
we'll put fun in parenthesis for the moment then. Mike Conway, thanks for your time this morning. Enjoy the run. Well, the thing about Goodwood is you see some very familiar faces in some unfamiliar places, and very familiar face, ex-FIWC World Champion, Ant Davidson, fresh from the Super Season in LMP2. And we'll talk in a moment about what you're going to drive up the hill. I can see it next to me, and that's going to be quite exciting. Let's talk about last season. Let's talk about going into next season. Success late with Dragon Speed, moving on to a new team, and real hopes of success with Jota Sport.
Yeah, can't wait to get started in the new season. It was a bit of a strange time for me in the Super Season because I didn't do the first 2 races. So missing out on those, felt like I was coming into it, obviously a bit late, a bit underprepared. Tried to drive it first race like an LMP1 car, which didn't really work out too well. Not just any LMP1 car, a 4-wheel drive Toyota hybrid. So that was a bit of a culture shock. But I really enjoy driving the car. Really enjoy, most of all, the group of teammates that I got in Roberto and Pasta. And so that continues into the new season, and we just sort of clicked and gelled more and more as the races went on, to the point where we won in Spa. We've learned each other's strengths and weaknesses as a trio, and like you always have to. And now, it feels much more natural to drive that car. Still haven't mastered it, definitely not, but I get glimpses every now and again how, when I really find my feet and I'm in the right, when it all clicks, I'm in the right zone, that I know I'm definitely one of the fastest P2 drivers out there. I've really enjoyed that time, enjoyed driving a new car, and it's never as easy as you just plucking a top line LMP1 driver and sticking them into a P2.
It's not plug and play anymore, is it?
It's really not. You don't just go and dominate. It does take time. So I think Pastor and myself, we've been learning this car, and it's a fun car to drive, but a difficult car to drive. Much more difficult than I thought it would be.
Now, we don't yet know about what the tyre choice is going to be, but if it's going to be a tyre choice, it won't be Dunlop, because it would be Goodyear or Michelin coming forward. Anything you can tell us about that? Anything you can tell us about pre-season testing?
Haven't stepped foot in the car yet, with Jota running it, so that's an unknown. Obviously they do a good job, as did Dragon Speed, 2 pro teams. So I kind of know what to expect. But in terms of the tyres, I've only ever driven Michelin in sports cars. So if it is another type of tyre, still undecided, then this it's just another thing to have to get used to. But I'm sure that side of things won't take too long.
And is the testing planned before we get to Silverstone?
Well, we got the prologue, so we'll be at the prologue, and that's probably going to be the only time before Silverstone. But like I said, it's the same car. It's that's the beauty of LMP2. It's all the same car, same engine. It's when you're in Orica at least, and it's same driver lineup. So it's all going to feel very, very familiar. Yeah.
We've got new season, new places, new challenges to come. Let's talk a little bit about not just last season, but moving forward. There is a new era coming. You've got this stable driver squad. The game plan is clearly go and try and win LMP2. Is there potential for something beyond that?
What, with our driver lineup currently? Oh, I don't know. You'd have to speak to Roberto about that. But I think for now, the focus is just on LMP2. We've had a taste of success. Obviously, Pastor and Roberto won Daytona as well in that class. So, they've had 2 victories together. One big one, of course. But I think Roberto really wants to win Le Mans in P2. Be nice for me to finally stand on that top step in any category one day. So that's what I'm looking forward to as well. But
having just spoken to your ex-teammate Mike Conway, I think he feels probably about the same.
I think we can empathise with each other. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your way forward. You've got the WEC programme. We talked before for this podcast about you looking for other avenues. Anything else on the horizon for you?
Not quite yet. No, it's still for me. I've got to look at the the Sky TV work that I do as well, and it takes up a lot of my time. So I'm doing 14 races this year. That might increase for next year, who knows? But it does take a lot of time. A lot more work goes into that stuff than just rocking up at the track and talking to the camera. So it's a very involved.
And you're good at it.
Well, thanks very much. I mean, I don't feel like I'm good at it, but yeah, it's that's what everyone seems to say. So
it's better than feeling like you're good at it and not being.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why you're here. This is one of those events. It's one of the very few events where we see, as I say, familiar faces with unfamiliar cars for them. Tell us a little bit about the beast that's to your right, to my left.
So yeah, it's the Braun GP 2009 car. Obviously, only ever did the one season. It was a derivative of an evolution of the Honda F1 car design, manufactured in Brackley, and it was a continuation of that theme, albeit with a very interesting story behind it, with the team Honda pulling out of Formula One back in those days at the end of 2008. I was at Super Guri at the time as well, so I was the first to kind of fall foul of that, of the Honda's pull out, as Super Guri folded after just 4 races into the season in 2008. Then my work continued with Honda, did some testing with them, and then they pulled the plug at the end of the year and left Brackley really in the lurch. So Ross and Nick Fry stepped it up and took the team on and created Braun GP and created this car to my right that we're looking at right now. And they got the Mercedes engine in the back of it. That was a real effort from everyone to try and cut and shut the car, quite literally, to shoehorn the engine into it. And obviously it's not just the engine mounting onto the chassis, it was all how the gearbox mounts onto it. And still to this day there are weaknesses in the gearbox because of that engine change that they've just been briefing me about, not dumping the clutch too hard off the line, and because it wasn't designed to run with this engine. So it's a fascinating story. Obviously the double diffuser came along as well. That was designed during its Honda period by some Japanese staff back in Tochigi, the Honda factory back in Japan, and it found its way onto this car. And they knew they had a fantastic car. It was way above the numbers that they were aiming for in the build up to the year, but they potentially were going to face the fact that they were never going to run the car. It was never going to see the light of day.
So is this the first time you've driven this thing?
No way. Have you not seen my overalls? Look, these overalls are 10 years old as well.
And you can still get in them.
There's
more than I would be able to. So you're looking forward to this?
Look, I used to test drive this car back in the day. So this was the last Formula One car I ever drove.
Wow.
So
you
like
say that wistful
capsule.
Eyes there. Wistful eyes.
Yeah, it's like a time capsule for me, getting back into it. It's really showing. I mean, yes, I admittedly only ever did straight line testing and aero testing in this car, but I had a feel for it, and based on all my years of testing properly at Honda, this really was. It's a strange feeling to come back here, same suit as I wore 10 years ago, same car that I drove 10 years ago, and very, very, very surreal experience.
And now in private ownership?
Now Ross owns the car. Run by a crew that are based in Silverstone, it's almost one of a kind. So the engine is there are no spares for it, so it really is it's quickly turning into a proper museum piece with real history.
Enjoy it. There's a massive crowd here to see it. For now, and Davidson, we'll see you next season with the FRWEC. Enjoy the Festival of Speed.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
Any legendary event needs a legendary driver. Okay, then Tom Christensen, you'll do. Tom, you and I have just been part of the global launch of this brand new Audi R8 LMS GT2.
And you're pulling my legs.
Always. It wouldn't be an interview without it. Tom, it's another member of the Audi Sport family. I mean, you're so much part of the story. What does it feel like when you see another chapter?
It's always amazing, and it never disappoints, does it? It just keep going, and for sure the 4 rings with the R8 badged on it. I mean, when we look back in the LMP1 days, going around Le Mans or Trois-Rivières or Sebring or Jarama or whatever, wherever we race those cars. And the decision of the board members to make, we want an R8, Audi R8 sports car for the road. What a decision and what a superb decision they took. I feel very proud when I see an R8. And of course the story about the customer racing have developed with the R8, the GT3, LMS winning, I mean Nürburgring a few weeks ago again. And what has happened over these 10 years. That's quite amazing. And now to see a new one, I mean, it's first of all very modern. Not only with the sort of the flaps, the flicks, but also in the terms of the design of the way they put the coloring, the way they put the air intake for the engine, the way they attach the rear wing. I mean, attach from the rear.
Swan necks. Yeah.
And basically, all these things really comes to eye. And I haven't really looked at all the details yet, but it just springs to mind. It's Audi, and it's a car which is aggressive, and it's a car which appeals to people.
You are a bloke who looks forward, but you're also a bloke that appreciates the traditions of the sport. The bonnet, the roof scoop, though, it's a dominant feature on this car, and that's the feature that everybody that's spoken to me since we took the covers off just moments ago dominates this. That's pretty old school.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, it was a very good idea very, very early on. I mean, you probably can tell me when it exactly happened, but I mean, it's something like the 60s, maybe early 70s in this area when they start to do it. It is the part of the car which is sitting high, and you're getting a very good airflow coming into the engine. Of course, you have the side blades, the openings as well. But again, with the narrow, let's say, cockpit, it's done due to the spider frame of the car. It gives still a very, very good airflow to the rear wing, and actually it helps of helping the airflow to arrive better to the rear section of the car.
It's 20 years or so since you started endurance racing. Since then, we've seen the global picture for endurance racing explode with GT racing, GT3, GT4, and now GT2. There must be, 2-3 times as many international races as there were when you were in your pomp in the late 90s into the 21st century.
Yeah, there is, and that's exciting. I watch it obviously sometimes, but I mean, what I still, even in my late age, is I enjoy driving at different events around different dealer meetings, different meetings from Audi Sport or track days to drive these cars, and I look forward to get into this GT2 car as well. I can tell you. We had 4 days in Ascari earlier this year, driving passenger rides in the GT3 LMS, and it was always into the dusk every day, and that was brilliant. The cars really can take it, and you give an incredibly feedback, obviously to the driver, but certainly also to the passenger rides you do. But this car is fitting perfectly for somebody who would like to go on track by himself, maybe going to one of these clubs or whatever they have around the world, which gives you the opportunity and possibility to drive them on track days, or to go into the championships, which I need to learn more from 2020 and onwards.
Final question from me. We see you around the racetracks, of course, in your retirement as a driver. What is everyday life now for Tom Kristensen? Obviously as an ambassador for the Audi brand worldwide, but what from day to day do we... I'm privileged to still to be working so much with the sport, and still to be able to see my family that little wee bit more. But with the FIA, I'm heading the Drivers' Commission, which is very important, and I take a high responsibility for that. With Rolex, there's different events as well, and then I commentate with you. I learned a little bit from you and helping out around with the Eurosports coverage at Le Mans. It was a great cup of tea, by the way.
I love make a cup of tea for the commentators, and then once in a while I go to the studio, try to highlight on either what happened, or maybe what we can expect to happen, or maybe how I would reflect on that, having done it some years earlier. And I also commentate Formula One for the Scandinavians, so particularly in Denmark. So I'm still very much involved around the motorsport, which keeps me busy. But for sure, on a day like today, when we give birth to a new baby, that's always special occasions and highlights, because we want to see them do well with a lot of happy faces, happy customers, and certainly happy racers around the planet.
Tom, always like to see you. Thanks very much for your time today.
Could you make me a cup of tea, please?
Let's go get a cup. Chris Renke, we're getting used to taking you to one side and talking about new car launches. 4 in 4 years now, after the GT4, the TCR car, the evolution of the Audi R8, GT3, and now, well, I was going to say stepping into the GT2 arena, but actually what you've done is kick the door in and gone in shooting.
And I think as you described, year by year, hopefully you also brought more and more exciting products. For sure, I say that, standing in front of the GT2 here at the moment. And we try really to increase the portfolio. We just not try to bring another product. We really try to tailor out about a customer clientele we are sure we have identified out there. And that was every product so far. The TCR was clearly an entry level with Audi into professional racing. The next thing was with the GT4 into GT racing. And then obviously the Evo on the GT3 was for an update for our benchmark, and obviously, for 11 years now, success model. And it was time to kick off a new era. And we choose a GT2 formula, which doesn't exist as such as per yet. So it's the first time actually the Audi Sport Customer Racing commits to a product before actually the race series is confirmed, because we believe we have built such a customer base at the moment in such standing within club races that we say, well, this is our escape route from everyday stress life. And at one point, if you want to take it racing, we have to trust into the SRO, so they'll make sure that we have exciting series out there in the world as well.
Now, we know the philosophy behind GT2. It is gentleman racer based. It is about big power, lower aero. Tell us a little bit about the design philosophy you've applied in this car, because there is still a lot of aero on it. It's very aggressive aero. There is one overriding feature, aside from the colour scheme you've chosen to launch it in, which is fabulous. Very, very new look for an Audi Sport product. But it's that roof scoop. That roof scoop is it's the design feature that every single person so far has commented on.
Well, the scoop on top is basically a follow-up on the scheme that we said if we build now the ultimate GT race car based on the R8, we need to start from the ultimate on the road, and that is a Spider. So we started with the Spider body, which gives it quite some width in the rear, obviously added track width in the front to match up, and then we wanted the ultimate on performance on the engine side, and therefore you need full breathability, and therefore we put the scoop on. It actually has a true air ram effect, and it also influences the look in the front, because when you see that the radiators exits go to each side and you have actually a flat panel in the front, this is exactly where the turbulences would start into the air scoop, and therefore it's a flat panel that we don't have any turbulences going in. So it's all technical driven, as it should be by Audi, but all obviously wrapped in a beautiful design.
So based on the Spider, tell us, in terms of the commonality, not just with the road car, but with your other race cars, the GT4 and the GT3, what level of commonality can you build in between the three cars?
Well, as they're all solidly based on the road car. And we say from the performance level, from the positioning in front of customer, the GT2 goes in between GT3 and GT4. This is also when it comes to common parts. We claim 60% of the GT4 is based on a road car, 50% on the GT3. This one is exactly in the middle. So we have overlays in the cage with the GT4. We have the drivetrain similarity with the GT4. We have obviously, the extreme and bodywork closer to the GT3. So you would find elements from each, and it's designed by the same guys who designed the other cars. So it's always an evolution in knowledge on the core racing product.
Final question, it's an important one. perceived wisdom is GT2 is here because SRO are anticipating the fact that GT3 costs are rising across the product range. There's going to be a question around running costs. We know that Audi take pride in the fact that that's been a selling point, not just in terms of customer care, but the running costs of your GT race products. Where are you with this car?
Well, this car sells from today on for $338 plus tax. So also when we say it's somewhere in between GT4 and GT3, that's also where it's priced in. But then it's not an overlay in our portfolio, it's an addition. We widen our possibilities. So when you have climbed into the entry-level GT, into a GT4 LMS car, there might be the split of route. You stay gentleman racing and go out to track days and want to have fun and want to enjoy the lateral acceleration, you go GT2. If you want to go in die-hard competition on pro level, you take the GT3 route. So when the route starts to split, now we can supply both sides.
And where, because I always say finally then ask another one after that, it's a tradition now, where are we going to see this car racing for the first time?
We are Audi Sport Customer Racing, so it's down to our customers.
No development car for perhaps a one-off race somewhere?
There is a development car in existence, which actually is testing, or has been testing. Obviously, in the sake for the good of our customers, it will take a severe program and do a lot of kilometers or miles before we finally release the car for production. But for the moment, no competition is planned.
Final question. What's your message to the competition? We know a few other brands out there are looking at GT2, looking carefully at GT2. Porsche are clearly already there. Is there a message from Audi Sport?
Well, obviously, here we are. Where are you?
Chris Franklin, thanks a million. Always good to catch up with old friends in any paddock, in the Goodwood Festival of Speed. Sometimes you see the faces, but in the case of the man I'm standing next to now, the first thing you spot is the hat. Eric van der Poel, it is lovely to see you.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Second time for me, and it's an incredible event.
Isn't it just? Absolutely packed here. There'll be well over 100,000 people here today. We're standing next to a simply fabulous BMW E30 M3. Tell us a little bit about the car.
Yes, this car is a bit in my heart. You know, when I start with junior team BMW, was 87, was the first year of the M3. And this car was straight away successful. Of course, we had a fantastic year. We won the DTM championship with this car, and this one is, by the way, is a 92 version from DTM. And of course we had a lot of races in Group A, European Championship, World Championship, and all around the world. Of course, BTCC here, and this car won in so many places. So I think I will keep it. I will go back at home with it.
Now a very, very valuable car indeed. I know even the road-going versions of these cars fetching spectacular money. You must be looking forward to showing this thing off. A little bit sideways, maybe?
Well, not really, you know. I don't want to hurt anything in this car. So, no, it's just a pleasure every time I go back. I had the chance a few weeks ago to do the classic DTM race in Zolder. So it was like in the past. And by the way, I share the wheel with my old teammate Mark Essel, who was the junior team in 87, and we raced on the same car. So it was a wonderful weekend, and every time I go back in this car, it's I can say phantasm, not orgasm, but nearly.
We loved seeing you in your pomp, particularly in the sports car racing world, in prototypes and lastly in GT race cars. Things have moved forward dramatically. Are you still keeping an eye on the way the sport is developing?
Yes, even if I don't agree with all the regulation and stuff like this. And of course, we had difficult time when FIA bring the categories drivers. I think many drivers lost his real job, and it was my case. So of course it was very hard. But of course I still follow that, and I was at Spa yesterday for the test, or 2 days ago for the 24 hours test, and it's difficult to leave my passion, you know. I love that, and I think I will still racing during many years if I can.
Well, you know what, driver category can come around and help. You must be, how can we put this, mature enough now to be a bronze rated driver. Any opportunities?
Please don't speak about categories, because it keeps me so upset, you know. it killed my job. It killed my passion. And for me, it was a very difficult time when it happens. And I'm 100% against this.
I can see the anger.
Yeah. Because, I think teams has to decide what's their priority. If they play for victories or if they play for money.
Yeah.
And it's not FIA or the organization who has to decide for the teams which are their priorities. So it's upset me very much. But anyway.
Let's talk about that Spa test. I was watching from afar. It did seem to me there was a remarkable number of incidents, a remarkable number of damaged cars.
When?
At the Spa test.
Yes, because Spa, it's a very fast track, and of course those cars are very quick now. Quite easy to drive, I have to say, for a professional, because you have a lot of assistance, electronic assistance, so you have to decide when you begin to brake, when you're beginning to turn, and when you're beginning to accelerate. And many electronic assistance helps the drivers, but of course it's still very quick. It's very demanding, very hot in the car, and it's still a human sport, and you can do mistakes. So I have to say, I think there was some blew up tires at Eau Rouge, and when I went to see there, I could see many cars touching the tires on the wings.
Yep.
And I think it can happen again. So they have to be very aware about that, and I think it's part of the crash they had.
There can be few men alive that know Spa and the Spa 24 Hours better than you do. I loved watching you in your pomp in the Maserati in particular. Great years. 73 cars are going to be on that grid. Now, I have an opinion. Happy to share it with you. I think that's too many. What do you think?
Too many, it's never too many. It's good for the publics. But what I don't like is that you have too many which are not really competitive, Of course, you have, I think, 15 cars who can win. But again, if the team could choose the drivers, it will be 25 cars or 30 cars who can win. But anyway, the spectacle is fantastic. The cars are beautiful. The race is incredible, because that's the fact of racing who makes really the victory to the guy. You have to be perfect from the start at the end to the end. And also you really have to be lucky, with the yellow flags, with everything. So today to win Spa 24 Hours, it's really, really tough.
Do you fancy another go?
Yes, of course. If I can drive for a car who can win, yes, of course, directly.
Let's see what we're going to do to make that happen. Eric van der Poel, always a joy in any paddock. It's great to see that the anger about driver ratings is going to be replaced by that trademark smile with a trademark hat when you go up in this BMW M3. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.